Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Doujinshi, and welcome back to another episode of Hentai Reviews, the only series that has some serious-ass explaining on where I've been for the past 2 weeks. If you want to know more about that, I could urge you to follow my Twitter. I don't give a fuck if you do or not. It was some stuff that went down with my family. But I'm back at it. Better headspace, better work ethic. Better work ethic. There you go. And let's just go ahead and jump right into it before I start going on a spiel. Okay, so today we're going to be jumping back in with episode 1 of a little thing that's been recommended to me a long time ago that took me till just now to watch. And then after watching it, I realized I'd already seen it, but never made a video, so it's a good point. Today we're going to be reviewing an episode 1 of Bokura no Sex. God, this is going to be... I don't know if I'm going to need to do the weird font for the entire name of this one in the thumbnail. But regardless, this is episode 1 done by fucking Queen Bee. Really good properties. Horrible animation. And I cannot stress that enough, because I've reviewed more than one. And this one runs at about 22 minutes and 34 seconds long, I believe, and has a few tags in it, not necessarily the most, I'd say around 7 or 8. Notable ones of which are teacher, glasses, and dark skin. At least we're getting somewhere. And ooh. It's a divisive one. You see, the episode itself starts off with the main character, whichever one you can say. There's the main male character and the main female character of the first part. And it's strange because the main male character is at a pool in an area that looks like it's about to rain. So nobody else is there except for him and the lifeguard. Alright, the lifeguard is the reason there's a tan skin tag. And oh, it's awesome. But the second she shows up, you can tell there's kind of a sense of turmoil in between what's going on. Like, there's a little bit of a grift of what's there. The main character is reminiscing a lot back to when she seemed to take her job very seriously as a lifeguard. She would very much be on movement with a lot of these different kids. And how she also had long hair. But she's doing something strange where she's very out of it. Like, she's pissed off that this guy who she's known the entire time he's been there is like, why the hell are you here? It was about to start raining. It's a fair point. Who the fuck goes swimming right before it rains? Second, she does this thing where she looks off and a tear just goes down her eye. And it's never explained why. I swear to God, she's aloof, she's hard to pin down, and she has tears running down her eyes at random moments. But it's never fucking explained. It's building character that never gets resolved. Because after a little bit, once the reminiscing scene is over, and she looks off, little tear goes down, it starts to rain, and she says, oh, we should get out of the sun. We should get out of here before we start getting sick. So, they run inside to a locker room. Don't know if it's a unisex thing or there's going to be some weird explanations going on, but as soon as they get there, there's a little bit of like a tension building moment where male character and female character are just like, yeah, so what's going on? The male character is obviously turned on, and the female looks over at him and says, so what you got going down there? There, and he's like, oh, nothing. She's like, you're gonna get cold because you're all wet. I'm like, first of all, it's a pool. He's probably safe, but there's a lot of piss on him. So why is that not attacked? It's a public pool. But then they start pushing each other to get... She grabs him and hugs him and holds him together, and then slowly starts working his thing out of his pants, which then leads to scene number 1, which starts at 2 minutes and 35 seconds and goes all the way 2 minutes and 30 seconds and goes all the way to 9 minutes and 35 seconds, lasting for a solid 7 minutes in a very brief movement through the whole thing. And damn if it wasn't. Animation is a curse upon this land. It gives and it takes. Fuck, why does this one have to be the one that's bad? But God, if the animation were just a little bit better. One of those hentai that was made in like the 90s or like early 2000s. Why couldn't it have had that animation? But no, it gets put onto this one. I would rate it very solidly for what it is, but fuck. Yeah, after their scene, they kind of feel like there's a little bit of a bond that's grown as they start to go their separate ways once the rain lets up, and she says something along the lines of, come on, if you ever want to go swimming again, you can come on back. Which is very sweet, but then it immediately cuts to another scene of a completely different scenario with a completely different person. Now introducing three people. First, it starts off with the main female of the next story. This is an anthology series, apparently. So, episode 2 is going to be probably a whole bunch of different characters, or expand upon the first one, because I was interested and she was hot. But nonetheless, it then pushes itself to the next scene, where there is a girl being driven up to a very nice house, and it's revealed that she's a teacher. She is there to tutor the person that's there. But as she comes in, she looks over, the door is opened after she knocks, and there's a bald character with sunglasses on. So you know, it's gonna get weird. As soon as she walks through the door, he says, come on, let's go ahead and have a seat. And he walks into a living room that's devoid of all furniture except for a few things. And those few things are all females who are BDSM tied up, and they are sitting in the ways of the furniture that is previously mentioned not there. So, this is a fetish I don't have, but I'm willing to look further into. But it's a little strange seeing it all, though, because he's sitting down on one as it's a chair and says, have a seat. She's like, no. And he's like, I insist. And she's like, all right, fine. Then sits over to the side, and it's explained that he uses this area for BDSM-style pornos. Which is understandable. This would be a whole different story if he was, like, a doctor. But no, it's okay. He films movies like this, or at least rents out areas, and has this as a hobby for the meantime. And she says, can I see the person I'm supposed to be tutoring? Because you're like 40. And he says, sure. Pulls out his son. His son is sitting there, very well-mannered, and like leaning off to the side. In which case, he then introduces him and says, hi, this is my son. He's willing to learn. But the main reason we brought you here. And then the son, stands up, holding rope already. Eddie says, I wish to tie you up. I really want to tie you up. You look perfect for this whole tied-up thing. And she's like, no, you can't. And he's like, yes, I can. I've been practicing. And his dad's like, he has. He's a master at this. All these women he tied up as well. And that's a very confusing sentiment for a tutor. But, okay, let's go ahead and push forward. As they push forward through it, he eventually starts to beg harder and harder, like, please, you are beautiful. I want you to look as beautiful as you can with the techniques that I am prepared for. And she's like, oh no, begging, that's definitely not a turn-on for me. In which case, boom! It cuts into a lot of the BDSM tying up her, as she's already fully clothed, but the more closer he gets with the rope, the more intimate it gets, until eventually her clothes are then stripped of her as she's become more and more aware of everything that's going on, and gets a little bit more personal. Which leads into scene number 2. Scene number 2 starts at 17 minutes and 55 seconds and goes all the way to 19 minutes and 20 seconds. I counted the actual, like, indication of what I would consider sex, and a lot of the pre-build-up to it is the act of tying up, which I wouldn't say I'd consider it. But then after that, it kind of panders off and it slowly stops once the whole act itself is done. Leading into the review, I guess. It's a very brief ending that just kind of cuts off. So I guess we can get into the standard points. Yeah. So, let's go. Thank you very much. You see, let's go ahead and talk about the animation. The animation here is, unfortunately, it's Queen fucking Bee. So, 3 out of 10, this is essentially a low-effort motion comic. And, fuck, I wish it wasn't. Because this has potential. But damn, 3 out of 10 when it comes to animation. Now, when it comes to the story and characters, it's so interesting because they're setting up these wild scenarios that aren't inherently sexual, that feel like there's something behind them, that then cut down to one scene and then completely stop. They could expand on this so much. Why is the main girl in the beginning crying? Why is the main character in the first series so interested in her? And why does he keep going swimming just to see her? Is it just because he has a crush on her? On her? But it's never explained. What about the first one? Can you go through some of the prior things that have happened between the son and the father that would lead them into this scenario? What about exploring some of the scenarios that may have led to her being like, I never really thought about it, and then completely accepting a BDSM career? There's so much you could do that just shuts off right here. Don't make this an anthology. You should have made the first episode, the first section of this, the entire part, and the second part, its own episode. But I would say it's very intriguing for what it is. If it had gone on further, it would have got easily a 10 out of 10 when it comes to story. And yes, 10 out of 10 for a hentai is pretty easy to get as long as you have some semblance of story that's minorly interesting. Redo of a Healer gets a 10 out of 10 when it comes to story, because it only has a story. Fuck. Just remembered something. But we're gonna wait till the end of the review. When it comes to story and characters, I would give this a 6 out of 10 because it's interesting for the beginnings of what it is. All the way until the actual scene itself starts, in which case it panders off and it doesn't end properly. It goes on like an anthology series, which it is, but damn it, I wish it wasn't. 6 out of 10 when it comes to story and characters. And now we're all really here for, the plot. It's not great. Yeah, it's... After my original thoughts on it is I was going to give it a 7 out of 10 because there's nothing really bad about it, other than the fucked up animation, but the more I think about it, the more I realize, yes, that's a solid 6. It's not average because the first scene is 7 minutes and something seconds long, but the second one really has too much build-up for its own thing. Maybe that's part of the fetish that I just don't get completely yet, but there felt like there could have been more, and I really wish there had been, but for what there is, I'd say it's above average, but not by much. So I'd give it a solid 6 out of 10. So overall, let's round this up to 6, 6, and 3. That's 15. This is a solid 5 out of 10. Very middle of the road. I'd say it's very front-loaded. The front-loading of it sets it up for story, where it needs more story, and the back-load of it needs more sex when there is a lack of it. Maybe you could have introduced, like, a better... If the animation was better, maybe I would have been more interested in the way that the women are being tied up, but... alas, shit doesn't work out the way we want. Solid 5 out of 10, I'd say I wouldn't come back to it, but maybe if I was curious, I would then get an idea for it, but the animation isn't doing it any properties. So I guess that's where we're going to end it for today. So yeah. Thank y'all for coming here. It has been a little bit of a ride recently before we've gotten back to this sorts of stuff, and it's a little nice putting the uniform back on and, get my shit together. But, yeah. Expect more videos, and maybe expect some different videos. I'm still gonna post, like, the reviews at probably the same rate I had been before, every so often. But when I really feel like I don't have anything, I might post just some idea videos that have been like mulling in my head. Because there's some stuff that's come up recently that's really wanted me to just start doing stuff. I know it's nothing related to anything that my channel has done in like the past fucking year of its existence. When did I post my first video? Might have to look that up. But there was a video series that had come out recently called The One Villainous Scene that was proposed by a different YouTuber that ended up cascading to a whole bunch of different ones. And something about that just caught my eye. Who knows, maybe I might make some analysis videos on things that I might like. Maybe I'll try to tie it all together with the whole porn thing. But yeah, until next time, I have been the Doctor. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for each and every one of you that's here. I now have 2 videos that have over 1,000 views apiece, and that blows my goddamn mind. And I can't appreciate you guys enough for sticking with me in this part of my life. Thank you. I appreciate the hell out of each and every one of you. And just remember, have a nice day. Don't be a dick, there's too many of them. And wash your fucking hands! My mom's a nurse, and she has explained to me about how more diseases keep getting worse. So please, just wash your goddamn hands!